gonna give this a shot. There's been some interest on a series on my 78 Fummins build. It's a 2006 2500 quad cab short bed chassis. I had originally bought the truck 2018 down at Fort Hood when I first joined the Army. It's been through a couple different transformations in that time. The cab was rotted, had all sorts of electrical gremlins, bed was shot, bunch of issues. Kind of started tearing everything apart after I spun a rod bearing in the original engine. I just put a second gen swap on it, and first start didn't last 5 minutes. Spun a rod bearing, so ended up being a much bigger project than I anticipated, and it just kept snowballing. Originally I was just gonna sell the frame, buy a long bed, and build a dually as a tow pig. And then I kind of got to thinking I like something unique. Looking online and whatnot at wheelbase for older trucks. This 79 supercab with the short bed is actually pretty close. So I went on Marketplace and found one pretty cheap. Sold a couple parts off the old truck and bought this cab with it. It's in okay shape. Definitely needs a little bit of work, patch panels and whatnot. So right now, obviously I'll be making some filler pieces in there. Got a good little gap there, but come around, that's where the cab mount used to be. It actually didn't move too far, so I just kind of chopped them off real quick and tacked in the back sides. Just kind of bolted it right into the cab mount spot on the 78, and wherever it fell on the frame, that's where I just kind of tacked it up. I've still got a 2x4 sitting underneath, as you can tell, kind of holding it across the frame. I was going to notch right here on these frame rails. As you can see, it hits right here, but when I test fit the engine, if I go any lower, I'm gonna run into some clearance issues, especially with the second gen swap that's on it and the intake. I don't really want to push the limits because right now it sits about here, so I'm gonna run out of room real quick on that. As for the rear mounts, I have to chop the cross member here. You can kind of see, here's where the forward mounts are. It's right here, and this is just resting across this bar here. So I'll just leaving it for now. It actually sits pretty level, but I'll chop a section of this out and create a body mount to go in there. I've got the original Dodge mounts here. I'll either make something out of that or get some 1/8 inch plate. But when you come back, obviously the frame, you can see it a little bit, but I've gone over everything with the level. It does sit level right now, so I think for all clearance purposes, I'm gonna leave it at this height. Doesn't look too bad with a couple inches of frame sticking out. The front links are a far from stock kit. It's a DIY kit, but I just kind of pieced it together. It's not perfect, but it's good enough for me. The rear bars are Longhorn Fab track bars. The front mounts are gonna need a little bit of work. I had somebody back in Texas when I first bought the truck did those. Might have to cut those off and fix them. Not a professional by any means, So I'm still kind of teaching myself some welding and fabrication. Right now I'm working on moving the engine mounts, doing 3 inches back just to get myself enough clearance on the front section for all the cooling. It's a little bit shorter front fenders on the 78 than the original 06. So trying to fit the intercooler and the radiator and everything else in there. Just gotta slide the engine back a little bit, give myself a little bit more play, and I'll still have some trimming to do up front. Obviously gonna have to make a new radiator support bracket, and I'm probably gonna run electric fans. Trying to run the standard clutch fan just isn't gonna work. Here is the core support that came with the cab I bought. Obviously I chopped out this bottom section here, and I traced the radiator and just kind of quick cut all that out with the grinder. I'll buy a fresh core support online and kind of make better cuts and whatnot, because obviously I just did it real quick. So when we do the final mock-up and whatnot, I'll get a nice one. Somebody else had already gone in and was planning on doing a swap on their second gen. So we've already got some holes there, and this was pretty much all burnt out. So is what it is. I'll get all that replaced later. And as for the patina, I do love the color on this cab, and the natural patina. I really would love to keep it, but I don't think that's going to be an option. I had to replace the quarter panels on the cab already. I just kind of tacked everything up real quick. I got to finish all that backside there, threw a little bit of Bondo on. It's not perfect. Only spent about 20 minutes on it. I haven't even tacked up the bottom section, so that's still loose. There's going to be a lot of body work on this still. I've got to pull this dent out right here, so I'll just tack something up to that and pop it out. I've got to tack this back up too, get that all solid. And right now, see, I love to keep this patina. There isn't a bunch of it, but in my opinion, it just looks perfect. Unfortunately, it's probably gonna go. I'm gonna have to get new doors anyways. These are kind of rotted, and I gotta figure out something for the floor. The previous owner just kind of went to town cutting it and putting some plating in. Obviously, I mean, you can see all that. So they cut out the firewall too when they were originally going to do their swap. But I'll cut everything up, try and make it somewhat pretty again. And right now I think the plan is, if I can find somebody that does some custom patina work, we'll get some patina back on it. But right now I'm thinking about going the same color as my 5th gen. I've got the stocks back on it right now just because I made the trip to go pick up the cab. I didn't really want to I got my 14 wides right there. I didn't want to make the trip with those, save a little bit of fuel mileage and whatnot. But I'm thinking about possibly doing that PAU color for this truck. I've already got it on the coils and the steering here. I just kind of bought the spray paint version of it. I did throw some on these rear track bars just to see how it would look. Haven't done anything on the front bars until I get those, fully burned in and set. I've got just some actually Ace Hardware leather brown spray paint for the axles and the frame. Just kind of a cheap build. I'm not tearing this thing down, getting it powder coated and whatnot. Just kind of a budget build, just doing everything in the driveway. So that's kind of a quick overview of what I have done so far. Get back to knocking these motor mounts out. Like I said, I'm kicking them back 3 inches for a little bit more clearance up front. If I stay at 3 inches, I really shouldn't be hitting the firewall at all. I think the police coolant bypass on the back hit the plating that the previous owner just chucked back in there after they cut a big ass hole. So I'll trim that a little bit. I have the original piece from the firewall. I'm gonna try to save as much of that as I can. Obviously when we go to run the wiring harness, steering linkage, clutch pedals, brake pedal, gas pedal. This is gonna be a G56 truck. I want to keep the G56 from my old truck that I swapped in. So I'll obviously cut some holes in the firewall then. So after I get all that mocked up, that's when we'll go through, probably do some new sheet metal work, try and make it nice. So to get into today's project, I test fit the engine yesterday, stock engine mount locations. I maybe could have gotten it to work really tight with the intercooler and the radiator for the original 2006, and trying to use the grill insert and the core support for the 78. So, and that was even doing away with the original clutch fan. I think I'm just gonna go to electric fans. It'll be easier. I don't know if I'm gonna try and wire it into the original clutch fan wiring, or if I'm just gonna hardwire it and put it on a switch. We'll see when I get to the wiring portion of everything. I found a couple standalone ECMs. Harnesses, I think I'm going to try and relocate it into the cab somewhere under the dash. I'll have to see how much room I have. I do want this truck to be full AC, full heat. I'd like to still enjoy it. It gets cold in the winters here. Probably won't drive it much in the winter. And it does actually get warm in the summer, even though we're up in Michigan. But back to what I was saying, today's job, we're relocating the engine mounts 3 inches back. As you can see, I've already got this one tacked up. It's really not as bad as I thought it was going to be. You got 19.5 inches center to center for the mount bolts. And then I just kind of shot some marks off of the original mounts, and gave myself some lines so I knew roughly where I was going to put these. And I'll see if I can show you those. So I just kind of marked up here on the frame, off of where the prior mount position was, same as here, and then I did some on the firewall, just kind of give me a rough estimate on angle of the bolts. I also used my phone with just an angle finder app, and it's teetered right between 6.8 and 7 degrees for the angle on the bolts. I think I tacked this one up and it was 6.9. I'm not gonna fully burn it in yet until I get this side tacked up and I can get a proper measurement between the two mount holes, because obviously the frame here starts to dip in on this side and this side as well. That's part of the reason I didn't go any further than 3 inches, is I'm just teetering that line. And like I said, this is my first time doing anything like this. I'm teaching myself all the fabrication, all the welding as I go. Obviously I probably could scoot it back a little bit and build a gusset out so that it is the proper distance, but then I would be cutting back into the firewall like the prior owner of this cab was doing. This right here is how I was finding my angle for these motor mounts. I just kind of threw this L bar in, lined it up with my mark there from the original one. It's just kind of resting, make sure it's flush on that bolt and that bolt mount, and then I used an angle finder on my phone and set it right up here, and obviously find my 7 degrees. Threw a quick tack in here and a quick tack in here. I'm actually out of argon. I gotta run next Monday when I get back from drill, go get a fresh bottle of that. So I'm just tacking everything up right now until I get more gas and get everything squared up and measured out perfect. Anyways, this will be my first video. If there's a decent amount of interest in it, I'll keep going with the series, and I'll look into getting a GoPro or something better for filming instead of the iPhone. Do my best with what I got for now. Throw you guys back up on a time lapse, and we'll knock out this passenger side motor mount, get that set up. Obviously I'll have to take it down for a few minutes when I go to find the angle, because I use my phone for that, but I'll throw you back up after I get that done. Moved and just tacked up. Obviously I'm gonna have to kind of massage this one. Once I get a little stronger tacks on there, we'll get that straightened out, make it look a little pretty. But distance from bolt to bolt is 19.5, and they're both on the 7-degree angle. I did also go ahead and just throw some filler weld in where I kind of cut into the frame when I was cutting the old mounts off. Yeah. So we got a little gap back here. Make some filler brackets, and I'll probably go ahead and I'll get some 1/8 inch, and I'll do a little bit of gusseting kind of on the bottom and in the center. I think I'm gonna try and squeeze that back side in to start matching that frame rail a little bit better. This is all just quick temporary mock-up. I'm getting ready to go to drill in the morning. I just kind of wanted to get what I could done real quick.